Hello and welcome. Did you know that Asia's longest running insurgency is in India? Or, for that matter, one of the most prolonged peace negotiations have been happening in India? That's the subject of Simply Nitin this week. I'm Nitin Gokhale. So, which is Asia's longest running insurgency? Well, it's the Naga insurgency in the northeastern states of India, not particularly confined to Nagaland, which is one of the states of the Indian Union, but across the states in the northeast, the Naga insurgency has been active since 1956. That long. And the latest peace negotiations, believe it or not, began in 1997. That's 23 years that two sides, the Naga underground and now, of course, overground Naga insurgent groups, are in negotiations with the government of India since 1997. Where did it all begin? Well, it began in what is now known as Nagaland, but then was known as Naga Hills, in the undivided Assam state. On 14th August 1947, the Naga National Council, a motley group of Naga nationalists or people who believed that Nagas as a tribe are a separate entity from rest of India, hoisted a flag of their own on 14th August 1947 in Kohima and said that we are an independent country. Of course, the Indian government, the new Indian government under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, would have none of it. They said Nagaland or Naga Hills were part of Assam and thereby an extension of the Indian Union, and therefore the Nagas cannot have an independent nation. It went on, the discussion, the debate, the arguments went on for the next 7 years or so. Until in 1956, the Naga National Council formed a Naga federal government and a Naga army to go underground. That's when India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was forced to send in the army in the Naga Hills, which, as I said, was part of undivided Assam state. And one of the districts in the Naga Hills, Tuensang, was part of what was then called NEFA, or Northeastern Frontier Agency. The underground activities of the rebels, the insurgents, kept on increasing from 1956 to 1960, then 61. And of course, the army kept trying to get them under control. The first counter-insurgency, counter-terrorism kind of operations really began in the Naga Hills. Then, of course, 1966, you had the Mizo insurgency breaking out in what was then the Lushai Hills district of Assam, which is now the Mizoram state. Then insurgency broke out in Manipur, which was a erstwhile princely state in the late 60s. But that's another story. Maybe we can talk about it some other time. Today I'm going to talk about the Naga insurgency. It has traversed a long distance. As I said, it began in 1956. For the next 19 years, the skirmishes and the ambushes between the Indian army or Indian security forces and the Naga insurgents kept on happening. It was a bloody clash. The Nagas, the young Nagas, actually trekked to the Yunnan province of China, going through a very arduous trail, going through what was then Burma, now Myanmar, and then going into China to try and get help from China against India. They, of course, came back in 1967, and by 1975, the tiredness or the fatigue had set in as far as the insurgents were concerned. Negotiations were carried out between government representatives and the Naga representatives, and an accord called Shillong Accord was signed between the Naga underground and the government of India. It was a short-lived accord. It didn't get implemented. It was not even accepted by the Naga underground. The majority of the Naga underground and the Naga people rejected the accord, saying that those who signed the accord were a sold out people. So that was the end of the first peace process in 1975. By 1980, the younger crowd, the more radical crowd in the Naga federal government or the Naga National Council, which by the way was formed and launched by Angami Zapu Fizo, who is regarded as the father of the Naga insurgency, having launched NNC in 1947 or even earlier, and then of course going underground and then fleeing to London, from where he used to direct the Naga insurgency. It was rejected by the younger lot, led by Thuenglang Muiwa, who was a Tangkhul Naga, one of the tribes that the Nagas have, one of the 18 tribes. Isaac Chishi Swu, his comrade in arms, and SS Khaplang, who was actually not a Naga from India, but a Naga tribal from Myanmar, Western Myanmar or Eastern Nagaland. In olden days, there was no boundaries, no set boundaries and no pillars to distinguish between the Naga areas. Therefore, Khaplang, Muiwa and Swu formed what is called the National Socialist Council of Nagaland in 1980, deciding to carry on the struggle, as they called it, for independence of the Nagas. By 1988, the Indian government and the Indian intelligence agencies had managed to drive a wedge between SS Khaplang and Muiwa and Swu on the other hand. There was a bloody clash in which Muiwa's followers, almost 140 of them, were killed in a raid by Burmese army and Khaplang's men in one of the rebel camps on the border between Nagaland and Burma. But Muiwa and Swu escaped thanks to another insurgent leader from Manipur, a Meitei leader who is of course now in jail, but we will talk about him some other time. So they escaped, and then in 1988, the split took place between the NSCN. They got formed into two groups. One was the NSCN IM, that is Isaac and Muiwa, Isaac Swu and Thuenglang Muiwa. And the other group was known as NSCN K, or K for Khaplang. They, of course, kept fighting against the Indian army at various places. They almost carved up the Naga areas to be controlled by them in various ways. So if the NSCN K was strong in, say, the Tamenglong or in the Tuensang district of Nagaland and Tamenglong district of Manipur, the Isaac and Muiwa group was strong in Senapati and the other hills districts of Manipur and of course parts of Nagaland. So of course it became a three-way battle between the two rival groups who killed each other's cadres and leaders, and the Indian security forces on the other hand. So between 1988 and 1997 there were bloody clashes all over Nagaland and parts of Manipur. Then in 1997 a breakthrough happened where Muiwa and Swu, who were the predominant group, decided to declare or accept a ceasefire proposal and accepted the proposal for talks with Government of India. This was in August 1997 or I think July 1997. Since then, the talks have been on. Gradually, the Khaplang group withered away or split into more groups. Even parts of the Isaac Muiwa group moved away. And now, of course, you have several, at least 3 or 4 NSCN splinter groups spread all over the northeast. But coming back to the longest running negotiations, as I said, it started off in 1997. Then it was the Devegowda government, followed by the I.K. Gujral government. And of course, the Vajpayee government came in 1998, continued through the Vajpayee government's tenure. And then 10 years of UPA under Dr. Manmohan Singh, the negotiations went on. It was not until 2015 that an accord or a pact was reached between NSC and IM and Government of India. In August 2015, in fact, R.N. Ravi, who was then a retired IB officer who had dealt with the northeastern states and the region for most part of his career, was the interlocutor for the Naga talks. and he signed the accord on behalf of Government of India, and Isaac Swu and Muiwa signed the accord on behalf of the NSCN IM, saying a framework agreement has been reached. The terms of the agreement were never made public until last week, when the NSCN IM, tired and perhaps angry and frustrated with the Government of India's attitude, decided to make public the original copy of the agreement document, which said that there will be shared sovereignty, and they will work together with Government of India, which has recognized the uniqueness of the Naga identity. Be that as it may, Ravi, R.N. Ravi, who was the interlocutor, who is still officially an interlocutor of the Naga talks, is now the governor of Nagaland. And of course, the stalemate continues, although there are reports that the Prime Minister himself has asked the IB chief, the Intelligence Bureau chief, now to try and get a breakthrough in the stalemate that has occurred between R.N. Ravi and the NSCN IM leadership, which accuses Ravi of going back on his word. While Ravi says that the NSCN IM has not kept his word or their word by not abiding to the terms of the agreement, which said you cannot extort money, you cannot collect taxes, as the NSCN IM calls it, to run their organization, and of course not agreeing to some of the government proposals. It's a long story of, I would say, struggle, betrayal, hope, aspirations, and then the acceptance amongst the larger Naga population, or the people in Nagaland and the rest of the Northeast, that this insurgency hasn't got them anywhere. They have got on with their life. There are a handful, say about 3,000 odd cadres or supporters of the NSCN IM who think that the accord will bring certain privileges to them. But remember, there are other states in the Northeast which are opposed to any Naga settlement, because the Naga struggle is built around a concept of what is called Greater Nagalim or Greater Nagaland, which consists of areas which the Nagas say are Naga dominated, are inhabited by the Nagas, and therefore should be part of a larger geographical state called Greater Nagaland. They consist of areas from Assam, from Manipur, from Arunachal Pradesh, and of course the current state of Nagaland. The other three states, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh and Manipur, do not agree to that formulation and have violently opposed any idea of redrawing the boundaries in the Northeast just to appease the NSCN IM. So therefore, I don't see any settlement in sight in the near future, because these complications are age-old. There are hardened positions on both sides. So what's the future of the Naga insurgency? Nobody knows. I cannot predict, because remember, the leadership of the Isaac Muiwa group is getting old. In fact, Isaac Chishi Swu has passed on. He died about 2 years ago. Muiwa himself is in his late 80s, and the younger lot may be a little directionless, not knowing exactly how to proceed further, because the struggle has been on, as I said, since 1956. The Government of India is too strong. The state is too powerful for any insurgent group to outlast them or defeat them. And time and again it has been proved in the Northeast that insurgencies go up or become powerful for the first 10 years of their existence, then they start their downward journey. It ends in a whimper, and then again a new group emerges, as it has been shown in the Naga insurgency's case. But there is no end to it, and the state is too powerful and too giant entity to be defeated by a handful of insurgents, who of course now don't get any material help or shelter from the neighboring states like Bangladesh or Myanmar, who have acted against them, where they used to take shelter in the earlier years, used to get arms and ammunition and other help from unfriendly governments or regimes in Bangladesh and Myanmar earlier. China meddling in the Northeast insurgency has been there on and off, but China has its own compulsions, and it doesn't seem to get anything out of supporting the insurgents in India or in the northeast so far. But don't rule out the possibility, given the newfound tensions between India and China. They might try to stir trouble in the northeast through the insurgent groups. But as I said, I wanted to give you a rundown or an overview of the longest running insurgency in the world, which again I am re-emphasizing started in 1956. That's the story of the Naga insurgency and the Naga struggle, if you want to call it, for independence. And India and Indian leaders have said it time and again that the Indian constitution has enough scope to accommodate every aspiration and every hope of every small little tribe in the northeast. Whether those hopes have been accommodated or not, or have been met or not, is for those tribes and those small ethnic groups to say. But remember, because of these struggles, the formation of different states in the northeast has taken place. I remember one anecdote by B.K. Nehru, who was Jawaharlal Nehru's cousin and also governor of undivided Assam in the early 70s, under whose watch Assam was divided into different states. So Assam remained Assam. The districts of Khasi Hills, Jayantia Hills and Garo Hills was merged into the state of Meghalaya. The Naga Hills district was joined by Tuensang, which was under Nefa, to become the state of Nagaland, which was the first state, in fact, to break away from Assam way back in 1963, when all that they were asking for was an autonomous district council for administrative purposes and to preserve and protect the Naga identity. That's what B.K. Nehru said to me in 1990 in an interview, a rare chance for a young journalist like me in Guwahati that time. He said if Jawaharlal had not opened this Pandora's box, Assam would have remained united. There wouldn't be so many states. So followed by Nagaland on 1st December 1963, Meghalaya was formed in early 70s, in 1972 in fact. Then Arunachal Pradesh, which was originally known as Nefa, became a state. Lushai Hills district of Assam became the state of Mizoram. Manipur, of course, which was a union territory for a while, became a full-fledged state. That is how the states of the northeast, the seven sisters as they are called, came into being. Assam was the mother and the six sisters were formed later in a way. Tripura was a princely state, and they all now are collectively known as the seven sisters of the northeast. I call one more brother in terms of Sikkim, which joined India in 1975, was merged with India in 1975, of which I've spoken about in one of the episodes of Simply Nitin earlier. So therefore, this is the story of the Northeast and of course the Naga insurgency that I wanted to concentrate upon. Until the next time, keep sending feedback, keep liking us on our social media platforms and handles, and then of course send us suggestions for further episodes of Simply Nitin, with which I will come back every Saturday.